episode 196 of the TV Dudes podcast, recorded August 16th, 2018. High Life and Low Lives.
Hello, Lives. It's a 90s song, right?
It's not a song, Randy.
What? It's what?
We're done.
We're done?
We're done with the song.
Just end it.
Well, I think we had a good run.
It was a pretty good run.
We're coming up on episode 200.
Yeah, we're going to do something big for that, right?
I guess.
We're going to broadcast live from the set of Better Call Saul.
You know, it's funny. I'm like, we're going to do episode 200, but we did like a couple hundred episodes before we ever did this reboot where we started numbering them.
Grant, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a comic book fan. I own a comic book store.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this about comics, but they renumber all the time.
So should we do a new reboot?
Possibly. Yeah, we could reboot for a new number one. But the important thing is, then when we get to what would essentially be our 500th episode, we combine all the numbers. Then we do episode 500. And then the next episode is episode 1 again.
Crisis on Infinite TV Dudes.
Yes.
Crisis on Infinite Channels or some shit.
We could have
don't
like
know.
Secret Cast where then it brings in like the TV Dudes from alternate dimensions.
Yeah.
Okay.
TV Dudes 92.
We're we're going all video for our giant crossover event where we have our evil versions of us, our actor doppelgangers, our gender flipped doppelgangers.
Oh, that's going to be a fun one.
It's going to be fantastic.
So I'm looking ahead at our schedule, and I see that just as things line up, our 200th episode will be It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, some show on Fox, and Atypical from Netflix. I feel like it's fitting that Always Sunny will
Always
be
Sunny,
in there.
yeah. We'll have our race flipped identities too. What are the rules?
I love that episode.
That's a great episode.
Yeah, folks, we are the TV Dudes. We are back with episode 196, and I'm Grant.
I'm Randy.
I'm Kyle.
And this week, we're talking about a couple of shows returning over on HBO. We have Insecure and Ballers. And then weekly, we're discussing Castle Rock, which is on episode 5, I believe.
I think that's correct.
Or 6. It's on episode 6.
See, I was wrong.
I also think that one's correct.
It also sounds correct.
And Better Call Saul, episode 2.
That I know is right.
You know what? I know that I feel like we jumped the gun with like, let's talk weekly about Castle Rock, because now I'm like, I really just want to talk about Better Call Saul all the time.
You want to demote Castle Rock? Is that how it is?
It's just when I put them side by side, Better Call Saul wins.
I'm sorry. Don't you have 2 kids? You love them equally. You can't love 2 shows at the same time?
I mean, are we being honest here?
No, definitely not. I'm sorry I brought it up.
Yes.
Maybe the amount
I love them equally.
I don't care for Job.
Good reference. Yeah, folks, before we get into all of that, I want to say quick plugs. You can go to patreon.com/tvdudes, make a per episode pledge, and give us $1 or $2 an episode. That's like $4 a month. You only get charged for our main episode, and that's only going to be 4 times a month, and you only get charged if we actually post it. So you're paying for what you get.
That's right.
But in addition, anyone who gives any dollar amount gets exclusive access to our bonus content.
Yeah, a library going back at least 300 episodes at this point.
bonus.
Yeah. I think it's actually 120 or 112 or something.
That sounds
like
right too.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of bonus episodes. You can go through the catalog and listen from years, I guess 2 years back. We've been doing this.
We've talked about almost every Marvel movie.
Yeah.
We've talked about, we've done dumb quizzes. We've talked, I'm sure, about karaoke at some point. Maybe.
Have we not?
9/11 Seinfeld episode.
We did a live read of the Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of them to go check that out.
Content.
Patreon.com/TVDudes. It's the only way we make money. We don't actually do advertising on here. So if you guys want to help us out, if you like this show, please go over there.
Help us all get stingrays.
Right. Otherwise,
Hey, I just got a stingray.
it was not with Patreon money.
Not
Randy's next. I'm sometime after that.
We're also proud members of the Electric Sweater Network.
Electric Sweater.
Sweater.
And this is a collection of TV podcasts, TV-centric podcasts. Go to electricsweater.com. Check out the full list of all our homies and their great podcasts. Show them some love. Thank you, guys. Let's get into the news, Randy.
All right, so first of all, the Bourne Identity show movies are getting a TV show from USA Network called Treadstone, which I think was like the secret intelligence agency he works for.
Yeah,
The one that was chasing him.
It's a spin-off, not a prequel or anything.
Right. It says it's a spinoff. Here's the great news: it's being directed by Ramin Barani, who directed HBO's Fahrenheit 451. Didn't see it. Don't know if it's good.
I saw it.
Yeah, you had mixed reviews on it. I thought you and Ashley are both kind of like, eh.
Was the directing good?
The visual direction was pretty great, especially for the budget.
That's good.
The story, though, it's kind of, you've got to have an opinion on that kind of source material.
But the good thing is it's being written and executive produced by Tim Kring. You might know him from Heroes.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, that's exciting. So Tim Kring's bringing a new show to USA is the headline here. So I don't know about you, but that killed all interest I might have had in this.
Do you guys know what a ghost well is? That's like when an oil well dries up and then it only spits out like a couple drops a day, but then over time, that's what the Bourne franchise is to me.
I was thinking that's what Tim Kring was.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
Tim Kring he had enough oil for Hero season 1, and then it just went dry.
I feel like the Bourne franchise is just dry. Like the last film they tried to make, they had nothing left, just drops coming out.
It's like the 4th or 5th thing that Jeremy Renner's popped up in because he's going to take over the series, and then he doesn't.
Yeah, talk about some luck.
No one wants Jeremy Renner, it seems.
Yeah, it's true. Supposed to start production in 2019. We'll see what happens.
Any other shows being spinoffs we're getting?
It's all spinoffs.
That's all we got today in our news. It looks like.
Sexy Beast, the gangster film starring
Ben Kingsley.
Sir.
That's Sir Ben Kingsley to us.
I never saw it. I know he's like a brutal foul-mouthed criminal, because it says here.
Yeah, he's surly and he talks like this.
This has nothing to do with Hank McCoy. It's not that kind of a sexy beast.
That I would be more interested in.
Oh man, cool. Can you imagine? That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Always wearing the glasses.
Yeah.
Except when he doesn't.
You have to get someone who's just like really hairy, like a muscular Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Oh no, you do CG, and then I think the voice talent's already here, which has changed the concept up a little bit.
Yeah, I like it.
Ben Kingsley as Hank McCoy.
We just need Ron Perlman in terrible prosthetics. To be
Actually, I like that better. Yeah,
that version of Beast.
So yeah, I don't know much about this. I just know that they're doing a Sexy Beast TV show. Oh, I'm sorry. It is a prequel.
Yeah. So a younger, still hairless Ben Kingsley.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with this one too. It just seems like there's a trend going on still with them just trying to adapt films into TV shows, and I think the majority of them are swing and a miss.
Yeah.
So not all of them are Fargo.
You know what else is a trend?
What?
Rebooting old shows.
Oh, what else we get?
Designing Women.
Why?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
is
because
that
of Kyle.
a good idea?
This is one of my shows, man.
But do you want it rebooted?
No, good question. I mean, it didn't really get its. I don't think it was that big of a smash hit back in the day.
It was. It was a big thing.
I mean, it was successful, but it was no Golden Girls. It was no Mama's Family.
So Linda Bloodworth Thomason, which, by the way, one of the best names ever, is going to be running the new show. They're shopping around to other networks. There's not much other news beyond that as to what it's going to be, but I'm sure. Whatever. Let's.
Who knows? Maybe the remake will be better than the original.
So here's the thing. Like, I don't want a reboot of Cheers. Like, I love Cheers. I don't need more of that. Like, don't reboot it. Stop rebooting.
Well, I mean, they kind of did. It's Always Sunny. They just went in a different direction with
it. It's a very different direction. Hulu is adding a new show. This one I'm actually excited about. Kerry Washington is part of it. It's being developed. It's called Old City Blues. It's adapted from a sci-fi graphic novel that I've never heard of.
Randy,
it's a European graphic novel.
You own a fucking comic. I mean, you own a comic book shop.
They don't get Europe in your comic book shop?
They don't get Europe in my comic book shop. So this is set in the year 2048. Develops in New Athens, the area where Greece once stood, and the city is now, and I love this phrase, a robot-filled haven for criminals, offering a place for everything from drug dealers to smugglers to shady corporations and politicians. The only thing standing in their way, the New Athens Special Police.
Ooh. Hey, Randy, I have a joke for you.
Okay.
You know where you can read that comic book in Rogues Gallery?
Where's that?
In the bathroom. You want to know why?
Why?
Because in the bathroom,
You're European.
European. All right, let's cut the break. Let's just cut the break now. It's
Yep.
not going to get
Okay.
better.
Yep.
Okay, what's the next news story?
All right. So we also, this was big news, we got casting on Spock in Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
So it's an unknown, completely unknown.
Not completely. You
Well-
see he's the grandson of?
He's the grandson of Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
And he played Heath Ledger's character in the ABC Family adaptation of 10 Things I Hate About You. And also had roles in Gossip Girl and Madam Secretary. I have never seen this dude in anything.
Get ready.
But
You're about to see him in a very brief, 5-second cameo as Spock going, "Oh no, help me, sister!" And then he disappears, and they're like, "Oh, the search for Spock too."
God, I hope that's not true. I'm excited about this because the family.
Yeah,
They approved him. We've
the
heard
Nimoys gave their blessing, which looks like a shocker.
Did anybody ask the Quintos though?
Oh yeah,
They did actually, and he also was on board. Yep.
Oh, okay.
He's a little too long in the tooth anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think he's too old now to try and play a 10 years younger Spock.
I agree.
on the
I was getting ready to
series.
say because Leonard Nimoy played it almost till he died.
Yeah.
It's true.
And we talked about the casting last week of Ruby Rose as Batwoman. I think we were all generally in favor.
I had a funny lead in for this.
Oh, go ahead.
Has anybody bullied the new Spock off of Twitter yet?
No, Kyle. He's a
Oh.
white man.
They have. Okay.
Although, in fact, this mostly came. This was not the right wing trolls that came after her. This was a bunch of people that were basically saying she's not queer enough, she's not a good enough actress for this role, and she was driven off media by that.
I mean,
So,
she isn't very good as an actress from what I've seen.
She's not good enough for the CW. Come on.
No, everyone is good enough for the CW, it turns out.
Yeah. I actually liked her in Orange is the New Black, but it was a small role. I think she's perfect casting. I also think, in general, we probably shouldn't be driving people off Twitter. Actually, that's not true. We should drive everyone off of Twitter and burn it to the fucking ground.
You're not on Twitter.
I know, and there's a reason for that.
You don't know what's going on there.
It's a garbage
actually
fire.
it's a really good time.
It is not.
Everyone is nice.
It's like the Always Sunny bar after midnight.
You can come join us over on 8chan then. We can just hang
8chan.
out over there. Wanna be a baller. Shot caller.
No.
Okay, hear me out.
Yep.
I love that song, and that's not the intro to this show, so this seems like a problem. I don't like this show
Actually-
because of that.
I disagree. The song that they play in the intro of Ballers is my favorite part of Ballers.
Yeah, that's a pretty good.
It gets stuck in
intro.
my head.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
Who is that?
I don't know who it
Is
is.
it Lil Wayne?
Bum, bum, bum. Oh, yeah, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's got weird bars.
And it
Yeah.
sets, it sets the expectation for what the show is going to be, which is a bunch of ego-driven maniacs.
This is Entourage with a lot less misogyny.
Entourage in sports.
There's times where I watch the show and I'm like, The Rock's entire performance is just pretending that he has a sore back and a limp. He's just like The Rock with a limp.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, I think that's the strength and the weakness of Ballers. That most of the show I don't care about. I like all the football player characters. I like the actors, but it is like rich people having rich people problems.
And then always winning at the end of the day.
then always
All of
winning
them.
at the end of the
It's just. It's
Or
just,
losing in style.
Yeah, but it has The Rock, and The Rock is so charismatic that I will watch it for him.
Oh my gosh! And this thing is going to go on probably another 4 seasons.
Oh, it's going to go on
at
forever.
least.
Yeah.
So, do you watch this every week? I mean, have you watched all the other seasons?
Yes, I stopped watching Ballers after like one episode of season 1, and then it was either Kyle or Ashley talked me into watching more of it, and I binged the whole thing, and I was like, did I like that? I don't know, but I'm going to keep watching it.
You know what realistically, the strength of the show is that they're really good at giving you just enough at the end of the episode to come back for the next episode.
Yeah.
And then by the time you realize, I don't really care about these people, you're getting a little tease for the next one.
Uh-huh.
And then it gets all the way to the end of the season, and it's like, oh, wait, he got the movie. I mean, he gets the sports contract.
Yeah, I found that this is a show best binged all in once while doing something else. It's a good laundry show.
Oh.
I don't know. Like anything that occurs there, I have no investment in. I don't care for the success or failure of any of these characters. There's this one big dude who's now the general manager of the Rams.
Yeah.
And like he's like the only one. I think maybe it's just because like I look at him, I'm like,
Wait, Shooter McGavin?
Is he?
Yeah, from
No, he's not. No, not Shooter McGavin. The really big dude who just became
Charles.
Charles.
Oh, never mind. Sorry. I thought you were
Green?
talking about the villain. My bad.
No,
I'm on the
Charles,
same page now.
Yeah, Charles Green.
Yeah.
He's like the only guy.
Yeah, I like
He's got
Charles
this
Green.
kind of like puppy dog face where I'm like, I'm rooting for that guy.
Oh, yeah, that guy is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like
He just
him.
seems immediately lovable.
Yeah,
So
he
I'm like-
seems like a generally decent guy
I'm like,
by these standards.
Yeah, I want you to be like really good at being a general manager, but then the pace is so slow. Like
Yeah.
they really just linger on a scene that like very little happens in each
Yeah,
time, and I'm
yeah.
like, this. They make a 30-minute episode seem like an hour.
I have never watched a full episode of this show without doing something else at the same time.
Well, all you need to know about this show is in the credits. It's all the same people from Entourage.
Yeah.
It's what's his name? Peter Berg.
Yeah.
Or I mean, the guy's got a style with the stuff that he does.
Yeah.
Like this definitely. I mean, it's got a formula, and when you have somebody as charismatic as The Rock, like people are going to watch this.
That's
It's
all it
just
is, and that's what
mind-numbing
gets-
TV.
I like The Rock, and so I keep tuning in for a half hour. I don't know why. I don't recommend it.
Can I lay out kind of Can I lay out how they set this season up? Because
yeah.
I feel like it's kind of
Spencer doesn't like L.A. I don't know if you guys
there's
know that.
manipulative, but then this is kind of stretching. He takes them, so they're in L.A. and the one guy, he's like, I want to buy this company out here in L.A. and he's like, I got a bad feeling about this. He's like, why, man? You always do this to me. Blah blah blah. We're not going to be ballers anymore. And he takes him
We're
to
not
a
going to be
bridge.
ballers anymore.
God, I would love it if that was a line.
That was a quote. Takes him to this bridge, and he's like, yeah, you see this bridge? And it's like a bridge over concrete. There's no water. He's like, yeah, my brother killed himself on this bridge. He died right here.
Yeah.
Let's do L.A. Let's make this happen.
That was so weird.
That was
I
a
know.
weird.
It's like, all right.
Also,
Like in the episode, they give the big reveal of like what his pain is when they could have drawn that out and had it be something more interesting, or at least show the repercussions. Like any other show would have not revealed it and just shown that he's suffering for some reason, and then had it be a bigger rug pull at the end.
So, also, haven't these guys worked together for like years and years? How does he not know this about his friend?
How does he not know he had a brother who was also an up and coming or rising athletic star?
Killed himself.
That's a pretty fucking notable thing to know about your friend.
Isn't he a sports agent? Doesn't that seem like the kind of thing you would know?
Yeah, like something that would come up in an interview.
I guess never.
Any
never.
siblings?
I mean, like check this out, Randy.
Yeah.
Tell us the names of all of Kyle's siblings.
All right. Point made.
But you know, none of them jumped off a bridge.
That's true. None of them are sports stars who jumped off a bridge.
Except for Zach, but I mean, I don't really like to talk about it because it really is. It's the bridge we're standing in front of right now, guys.
That is weird.
It's this bridge.
Can't believe you can't name
But
them.
let's screw it. Let's podcast under this bridge anyway.
But if Kyle had a brother
His brother's Eric,
who was like,
your brother Donald Jr. and Ivanka. I
that's not
think.
him. That's not him.
There's
You're
a
thinking of
Tiffany
somebody
floating in
else. Jared is the other one. Yeah. No, if Kyle had a brother who had been like a big comic book guy, or who had produced a TV show at some point, we would know that. We do. You don't have a brother who was big in comics or produced a TV show, right?
no.
Yeah. See,
None of that.
It's
None
just
of that.
crazy. But your point is
You were making a pretty big gamble there.
That's fair. It's a reasonable point. No, but the other thing I think about this, Russell Brand plays the guy for the new company.
Yeah.
And I don't like him either.
Oh, I like Russell
I like
Brand.
Russell Brand.
I don't like him.
There's something about
I like him in this.
well, he popped up and I'm like, all right, it's Russell Brand. You kind of have my attention for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Oh, but he's dragged down by having to play to this X Games plot. But I'm like, I don't want you to be that guy.
Yeah, this does pretty much seem like an assembly of better actors searching for a better story. Like, everybody here is good. Like, Rob Corddry's a good actor.
Yeah.
Well, at least he's funny. He hasn't been in any good shows since The Daily Show, but he is at least funny.
Hot Tub Time. Well, no.
Yeah. The Rock is great. The guy who is sort of the lead, the guy who's not retiring but is supposed to be retiring,
Denzel Washington's
son.
Yeah.
He's great. Like, this is a good cast in a really terrible show.
Right. All right. Well, let's go and talk about a show that's moving into its third season.
Yeah.
And is fucking great.
Yeah, this is a great cast and a great
Insecure.
show. Yes.
Insecure is a show over on HBO. And Issa Rae is back on her shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they said, I watched the after show, and they're
too.
like,
The wind
like,
down.
we're trying to show that that our characters are going through some growth, and I'm like, I don't know. It feels like she's still kind of waffling and not really knowing what her place is. Like, she's staying at her ex's house.
Mm-hmm.
She's staying on his couch. She's like doing a side hustle for Lyft and trying to drive people around.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the plot, like a lot of the stories, seem to revolve around them having the party Lyft, the party car, where they were driving people around. And I love the dynamic between her and her friend. Whenever they're just like chatting, I'm like, okay, I'm fully engaged.
Issa
there.
and Molly, like the two of those characters, I love those characters.
Yeah,
But I do think, like, she fucked up, right? She lost Lawrence over an infidelity, and then the two of them, like, if she had waited him out, he was going to come around for her. I feel like that. I mean, I understand because
I
he
think
was not
she
looking
gave
like
him
that
the
guy.
motivation.
Yeah.
because of that, for him to get his shit together.
But I think she's had a couple of possibilities of someone who could be good for her, but she can never quite manage it.
We didn't see Lawrence in this episode.
I think Lawrence maybe not be around for this season.
Yeah,
His story
that's
may
the
be
vibe
done.
I'm getting.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, trying to think to do.
That's a shame. I really like that.
I like
actor.
that character too.
We did see Molly's relationship with Dre. And
Dre? Or was it Dro? Dro.
Dro, yeah.
Dro.
D-R-O.
Yeah, D-R-O. Dro.
And
Subtitles.
that he was he's in an open poly relationship with his wife.
Yep.
And I went on Twitter, the place you don't like, and the reactions from everyone was just great. Everyone's like freaking out, tweeting about every little thing that goes on in the episode. But they're like, "Oh man!" I guess this was a big reveal for everyone. Like, "Oh, it is like they're on the level. He's not trying to sneak around behind her back." Because I guess there was speculation by a lot of the audience that
I never
he
got
wasn't
that
on
vibe.
the level there.
The vibe I got was that Molly she kind of thought, "Oh well, their marriage is breaking up." Like, she didn't know what she was getting in.
Yeah,
for.
but now it's like, oh, he was on the phone with her, very open that he's with Molly at her place. So he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So fully an open relationship. And it was good to see that she is moving on and is stepping up and defending herself in that relationship with him and being like, look, I need boundaries with you.
Yeah. I don't know. I also thought that there was kind of another one of these things where, like, he was clear with her from the outset about what they were doing, and if she didn't want to do that, then they shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Like, I like both these characters, but I also feel like they're both we're seeing their flaws, and that both of them are sort of looking for this relationship that's perfect rather than working on the ones they have.
Oh, yeah.
But I also think that, at least in her part, she's starting to recognize a little bit more of her self-worth.
Yeah.
And she's acting on that to make the declaration of like, no, you're going to respect boundaries with me, or you need to kind of step back. And, she laid down that line, and that's a healthier, positive character growth for her.
Yeah.
So seeing that, I was like, okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know what this kind of felt like to me? A little bit like these seasons of Master of None that we've got, where the vignette kind of goes like it's not so focused on these main characters as much. Like we get a little of these characters in the periphery a bit. I don't think it's as successful as something like Master of None in telling like these New York stories in addition to like what we have our main characters doing. But it does seem like she's trying to stretch and take the show in maybe a different direction.
I thought the most intriguing element of this episode was when Issa is at work and she starts calling the list and finding out the problems, the blatant problems going on in her office.
That she's basically the token, that they're treating her like that.
She is the token, and she's being treated like shit.
Yeah.
And that, and yet they're still trying to use her in a way to say that they represent a certain demographic of the community, and they clearly don't, and that's a problem they should try to be addressing.
I've grown to hate her boss. I've really grown to hate her boss.
Oh yeah,
I like the girl she was working with because I think that she's on the up and up. Like she actually called Issa out on last season when Issa was kind of letting some racism slide against the Hispanic students.
Right.
And I like her. I think her heart is in the right place. And I like the scene with her and the boss where she can sort of see that this is bullshit. And I wonder how that's going to play out.
That was a really intense scene. I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, she's so nervous and awkward though.
I know.
Ugh.
I think
me uncomfortable.
I think ultimately she's going to stand up for Issa.
Yeah.
And they'll probably both get fired because that's how this show rolls.
Yeah. I mean, I think that with every season of Insecure, it starts off a little slow.
Yeah.
And this is a show that seems to like really ramp up and hits its stride in the end of the season.
Yeah.
So, this was a little bit of a slower episode. I will probably wait a couple weeks until I can binge a couple of them because I think I like to digest this show in particular in a binge.
I loved this episode. I was realizing as I watched it that every time I watch Insecure, I remember how much I love it.
Yeah.
And I think that part of that is that Issa Rae is anti-ballers, and it's such a weird thing to pair with Ballers because Ballers is about privileged people, having not real problems. And Insecure is about just trying to make it. Like, not like Molly's struggling or anything, but Issa definitely is. Issa's starting to figure out how she is, and she's having a side hustle. She's working at, like, a company that doesn't respect her. Like, I feel like she's still figuring her life out.
Well, they're both struggling with identity and confidence in different areas. I think they constantly are showing Molly's struggle to be recognized for the contributions she makes in work and making strides with her connections with people, like her gender, her race. They tend to hamper her in certain business relationships too, and I think they do a good job of illustrating those things without it ever feeling necessarily heavy-handed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
My favorite moment in this episode is when they're sitting at the diner and so they make mention to that time you stayed with me 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns into this instant fight. And one of them's like, if you just admit you broke the lamp. And it's like, I didn't break your lamp. And you think that they're just kidding. And then the scene ends with them like, just admit you broke the lamp. That was such a great exchange. Just like a little layer of detail that kind of gives you more of what these characters have. Connecting them. Oh, so good.
All right, let's move on to Castle Rock, guys.
All right.
Oh, wait, is that... I mean, I don't know what the order you guys did last week. Was it Better Call Saul first? Or
I think we talked Better Call Saul first.
Do you want to keep that with that?
Yeah, why don't we do that? And then you can step out for
I'm not going to step out.
Oh, you're not.
I didn't watch Castle Rock either. Yeah.
Okay,
we're going to leave it.
Guys, Castle Rock gets talked about later.
Are we just dropping it from the agenda?
It's dropped from the agenda.
Oh,
That's
well.
it. It's dropped.
I feel like...
I'm not going to be the only one talking about it.
I feel like a professional podcast might have discussed this previous to us starting to record right here.
But Grant, how we have gotten shocking twist.
Oh,
Dun, dun, dun.
Gotcha, listeners. We're not talking about it. You suffer through all of this, and you get no Castle Rock talk.
Well, what if the fans who were here were just for Castle Rock would be really disappointed?
Besides, all of us generally need Les here in the room because that dude freaks out about every scene.
Les is your deep diver on Castle Rock. All I can talk about is how cool I thought some of the scenes were.
Yeah, like
Let's Skype him in.
all right, let's talk Better Call Saul, episode 2, titled "Breathe." It's intense.
Yeah.
Oh.
I got to binge episodes 1 and 2 because I just got back from vacation. That's why I wasn't here last week, and it's so good.
So Grant, you didn't talk with us about episode 1 last week, and we were talking about how Better Call Saul, especially now, really lives in the quiet moments. Like how it's deliberately slow paced, but it's so engaging.
Yeah, the scene in the very first episode where he gets up in the morning, he does his routine, and I was like, they're really like just kind of sitting with these gratuitous cinematic shots that are just like they're pretty, but it's really artsy and slow.
Yeah.
And then I realized how important it was for us, the viewer, to absorb how invested he is in that routine. And once his grief takes hold and he's blaming himself, he drops that whole thing.
Yeah.
And once that other dude gives him an out, he jumps right back into his happy-go-lucky routine as hard as he can.
Yep.
And what a brilliant way of saying who Jimmy McGill is in that scene.
There's something really impactful about the character who can talk, 1,000 miles a minute and always has a way to like talk himself out of something to just not say anything. Like when a character like that is silent, it's really impactful.
But on the flip side, in this episode, we get to see him getting back out there and trying to do some job interviews to get a job. Yeah. And I loved seeing him go to that, what was it, a
copier machine.
Yeah, a copy place to get a sales job. And we see him just kind of do like what you would think of as like a general, like, I'm into this pitch.
He's affable. He makes a good pitch.
I have a good leg up because I do understand these machines. I know about them, but I know I'm coming from the lawyer world, so that's going to be a little bit weird for these guys. And he's like, I can really sell something. But he doesn't show that he can sell something until he pauses and goes back in there just to prove, look, assholes, I can sell you on me, and I can make you believe in me.
That's a full-on Glenn Ross kind of thing, too. Like, it is a hard sell. It's super effective. You're like, oh, wow.
Like, he has it. He knows how to do that.
Yeah.
But then he also looks at them and sees his dad. He totally sees a sheep among wolves. And these people are gullible, and they don't. He doesn't want to work for people who won't do their due diligence and check someone's background.
Wow, that's a good catch. I couldn't figure out exactly why he had sort of self-destructed after that. I couldn't quite figure it out. And I was
that connection with his father.
I had not seen it, but you're right. That's 100% what it is.
He can't respect someone who's a sucker, and he doesn't want to work for anyone who's going to be a sucker.
Yeah. That's
what they showed right there. And it's a shame because I kind of want to see those actors more because I like those two guys.
That's a really good catch, Grant, because I had not caught. I was trying to figure out why exactly. I thought he was just like self-loathing or still grief from Chuck, but seeing his dad in that makes a lot of sense.
Who was that actor who played the main boss? Because I'm pretty sure I've seen him play that exact same character in Mad Men.
He's the creepy uncle of in Always Sunny. With the hands, the small hands issue, so he's always wearing fake prosthetic big hands.
He's really good at like sitting in a chair and like listening to somebody pitch him.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
So this is a random story about Better Call Saul, but I was sitting in Whataburger today, and I heard a couple guys talking TV. And I was just waiting for my burger, so I was just listening. And they were talking about the show, and they're talking about how great it is. And the one guy was like, "Yeah, I love that show." He's like, "I've watched it through like 6 times." And the guy's like, "Oh no, they're still making episodes." He's like, "Oh really?" He's like, "Yeah, that show's hilarious." And I'm like, "This show's funny from time to time." But I would not think of it as hilarious. Like it's a darker show than that. Felt like they were giving it short shrift.
That's like if somebody said Breaking Bad was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, sure, sometimes it was.
Like, the guy runs around in his underwear.
That is that's the pitch
funny,
I would give for Better Call Saul.
It's weird because the Saul character is comical.
Yeah,
he's over the top. He's larger than life. He's a loud character.
Sure. But
when he turns it on,
but Jimmy isn't. Jimmy has a lot more to him than just Saul.
And I think that the show was presented initially as it was going to be a comedic show.
Yeah, that was the pitch originally. Yeah,
but it isn't.
It's definitely not. Like I would not look at the show and go, "It's hilarious." Like, yeah, it's funny. But it's not a hilarious show.
I wish you just turned around and berated those guys.
To. I was like, listen, I know what I'm talking about. It is not hilarious. It's
hilarious. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? And then you just casually drop a TV Dude's card on their table and you just walk off.
Oh, I guess I should finish my story. So anyway, I can't go to Whataburger anymore.
It's a tragedy.
It's a tragedy. It's not funny. The other thing I really liked in this episode was Kim throwing down on Howard. And it's funny is she's kind of, I mean, not that Howard hasn't earned some scorn, but she is coming at him and she doesn't really know the whole deal with Jimmy and the way he was with Chuck. Like,
right. I mean, it was interesting to see like what it was that was bugging her so much, and how well she / the writers of this episode articulate all the problems of what that does to the grieving process for Jimmy.
Yeah.
And, complete Chekhov's gun moment when she takes that letter and hides it in the files. And Jimmy's going to find it at some point, critical in this season, and it's going to break him.
I do love that she called that out. She's like, what is this? Another last screw you from beyond the grave? Because, of course, that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's like completely positive and glowing, that'll also fuck him up.
Yeah.
There's no way on either way Chuck wrote that letter.
Right.
There's no way that it's going to be emotionally beneficial to him.
But I really loved Ray Seahorn's performance in that, like her sort of like just barely constrained rage and like upset, and like she used to idolize this guy she worked with. She really liked him.
Right.
And she is sort of seeing what she thinks is his true side, and I think she felt betrayed by him too.
But it further strengthens the relationship between Jimmy and her, which you can't help but watch this show through this this lens of understanding that it's like this is a prequel.
Yeah,
we even see glimpses of his terrible future.
Yeah, we know. We're pretty sure Kim's not around.
And it's like, what is going to be the straw that breaks their relationship? Is she still alive? Is she somewhere?
But here's the thing:
the romantic in me wants to have this ultimately end with him like leaving his fake life and like going to seek her out and be like, let's run away together or something.
I kind of love the idea. What if he goes home from his Cinnabon job and we see that Kim is with him and she's been in witness protection with him this whole time?
Oh.
Then why is he still so sad?
Yeah, what would
he's
be
still,
the explanation?
because he's afraid that people are going to come kill him and her at the same time.
What if it's Pleasantville and as soon as he sees her, color comes back into his life?
Yeah.
Colors like the color blue. Like how some people
just meth.
And then can get blue in the face as well.
And then Jesse shows up and he's like, "We got to cook," and it becomes,
"Yo, bitch, we got to cook."
It becomes the Breaking Bad reboot.
Science, bitch.
Okay, so we got to talk about
Fring.
Fring. Gus.
Blue in the face. I gave you guys a segue.
That was blue in the face?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. That's the... Yes.
So I'm sending him up.
Blue in the face.
Yeah,
now I get it.
Okay.
But I want to talk about the scene where
the hog tie scene?
No, not the end.
Okay.
That's what I was talking
about. When we sort of first see him in this episode, he's out there sweeping up in front of his chicken restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And you see him sort of looking around. And that moment, this is again why I think Better Call Saul lives in the quiet moments. Like, he's out there. This is a drug kingpin sweeping up the trash at his chicken restaurant. And then he looks around and he sees, I don't remember what he sees, a car or something. He sees something out that he doesn't like. This is a guy who is so detail-oriented that he is like the best possible manager of his chicken restaurant, which is just a front.
Yeah.
That's how detail-oriented Gus Fring is.
It's also kind of
fastidious.
Yes.
It's interesting, too, to see the correlation between urban... Wow, why am I drawing a blank right now? Mike.
Mike, yes.
With how Mike does the same thing, where it's just his front job, but he's like, I got to do it. I got to do a good job at this.
I did love Mike going up to her, and she's like, well, we don't need you to do this. I'd ask you to reconsider. He's like, I'd ask you to do the same. And you can tell he's like, I'm being polite and listening to you, but I'm not going to do a single fucking thing you said. I love that.
It's so great because he's just bored with a sedentary life. He needs something exciting in his life.
Yeah, for sure.
And
he's going to get it.
Well, yeah. So, I know we were going to talk about Gus. Okay, let's stay on topic. Let's talk about Gus.
Yeah.
So, Gus is obviously piecing together what happened with the poisoning of Scaramucci.
Yes.
Salamanca.
Yes. Tio.
Yeah.
Tio Salamanca.
And we see the cousins are back there.
Yep.
They're guarding him. So it's kind of cool when you get to see these kind of callbacks.
I love that they can bring back characters who we know are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just as scary.
What is
the
Tio's
first time.
name? Tio is he's the uncle, but what is his actual name?
The actor?
Yeah, no, the character. He's got a name. Hector
Salamanca.
Salamanca.
Yeah. So, Yeah, I like that. Like, he had his own doctors go and like vet everything, and then he brings in a doctor from Johns Hopkins just to oversee everything.
Yeah.
And make sure he gets better, just so that he can live in torment.
That's so crazy. Like, here's the one thing, my one big disappointment about Better Call Saul that I still think they could get to. There's references in Breaking Bad to Gus being from
Chile. Yes,
and
like
the impression is that he is protected, like maybe from a political family or something like that. I want to know that story. I want to know his origins.
Oh, Better Call Gus.
That's
the prequel to this.
I feel like we could still see some flashbacks at some point because I want to see why was he protected. I'd love to see the relationship he had with the chemist that was probably a gay relationship.
Oh yeah,
I would love
a little
to see
bit about that on Fresh Air.
What's the deal with his wife? Who he's married to someone, and like we never saw any, like he was such a force in the other show, and now we're seeing a little bit more of him. I want to deep dive into him. So if they ever finish a Better Call Saul and go to Better Call Gus, or whatever you want to call that show, I would be 100% on board with that.
That would be a crazy way to do this.
There's
to just
so
keep
much
going.
story I want to see.
Like, a third one in this world.
Because there's so many questions I have about Gus, and I thought when he came back in here, we'd start to see some of his personal life, but he's still the monolithic.
I don't want
You don't wanna
more
see
of
it?
a reveal. No, not at all.
I want to know what it is. I'm dying here.
No, I think it's interesting enough that we get this picture that he is like such a complete control freak, and he has such like this burning rage simmering under that very, very placid, calm demeanor of his, that he wants to be the one who tortures Salamanca.
Yeah.
He wants him healthy enough that he can watch him suffer. He wants to know what's going on with what's Michael Mondo's character?
Michael Mondo's
The Scorpion?
is
Yeah, Scorpion. What's Scorpion?
Ignacio.
Ignacio?
I know that's what Saul calls him when his name's he's Nacho.
Nacho.
Yeah.
Like he wants Nacho in his pocket, but he also doesn't want anyone else going after Hector when he wants to be able to have vengeance. So that's another way of like putting him in check and watching his friends suffer there.
Yeah.
He's going to make those people, and I love that he does that hog tying.
Oh yeah.
Move
yeah.
himself. Like,
Yep.
It's brutal and quick and like a superhero kind of thing.
It's like when he used the cutter and cut the guy's throat, cut Tyrus's, whatever his name is, who we also see this episode. I love that we're seeing all his henchmen come back, who we know are dead in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
When we had the same thing. He just came and killed his own dude. This is the same thing.
Man. Well, and the whole implication there is he's going to go back and tell Salamanca, oh, this is the guy who actually did it.
The guy
who
who
took
killed.
care of him for you.
Yeah.
That way he covers his tracks, but then he's got this dirt on
Yeah.
Nacho?
Yep,
Nacho
Nacho.
Fries?
Yeah.
That's really his name?
he calls him Nacho. His name's Ignacio.
Okay.
Yeah. And okay, let me ask this question. At the end of this episode, we have Jimmy call Mike with basically a, hey, I have another deal I want to make with you. And I don't remember the full details of it, but he wanted to set someone up. Or he wanted to steal basically that little figurine from the copy shop.
Right.
And it's because it's worth like $8,000.
Yeah.
And he looked it up online, the pricing of it.
Yeah.
Or he has some other...
that's-
Actually, he probably just has some better scam
That's
involved
also a
with it.
callback to, you remember he visited that woman who had all the figures?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked that callback too.
So is it that he's going to steal from her or from...
I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah.
A little
I'm
Robin
just-
Hood moment. Maybe steal the figure to give to her.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's obviously there's a bigger scam afoot by him, and it's him being pulled back into the dark side of his shenanigans.
Yeah.
Even though things seem to be going well between him and Kim.
Yep.
So,
although
I don't know.
nothing can stay.
You know what would be super cheesy, but I think they could pull it off, and I'd love to see it. Hallucination Chuck. pull like a Dexter and just bring Chuck back
I kind of don't want it. I was ready to be done with Chuck.
Yeah, and it's also way too gimmicky for this show, but I don't know. Chuck was just such a polarizing element for Jimmy's character. It's going to be interesting without Chuck there. You know what's going to happen now.
Right. All right. So, in conclusion, we hate this show. It's just terrible.
Those are the worst.
Not feeling it. It's worse than Ballers.
Well, let's come back next week to also talk about how much we just hate this show.
Yeah, next week let's talk Ballers episode
2. All right, folks. Once a week, if you go to facebook.com/TV Dudes, you can ask us questions, and we will try our best to answer them here on the show. And we got a couple questions this week. First one comes to us from our buddy Manuel Perez. He says, did Adventure Time lose momentum by taking long breaks?
I've never watched Adventure Time.
You know what? I think that it did. I think that, Adventure Time was doing a great thing with like building up the mythology with, building up to the end with like what's going to be the point that they want to end this series on, what's going on with where we see Finn evolve into his adult form, where he's this like super hero adventurer, and he gets the robot arm. Like they're alluding to all these things. They're talking about his relationship with his father, whether there are other humans out there, and if he can find them. And then, yeah, it seemed to like do a couple episodes, take a big long break, do a couple more episodes, and then take a big long break, and I just kind of dropped off of it too.
Okay.
I was loving it for a bit, and I was like really invested in the story, and then it also kind of coincided with when I cut the cord.
So you lost access to it?
Yeah, but like I could still find it. It's just I stopped wanting to watch it.
Kyle, were you an Adventure Time fan?
I catch episodes here and there. It's one of those that works pretty good, just episodically, or with standalone.
Yeah.
I can jump in usually at any point and kind of catch where we're at.
So do you feel like it lost momentum, or was it just never one of those shows for you?
Yeah, no, it was never one of those. It was always there, and there was always new ones for me to watch. I never got caught in the arcs or anything.
Well, related to that, Venture Brothers is about to come back, and that's a show that takes what you might call long breaks.
You finally watched it.
I watched a season and a half. I like it. I don't know that I'm going to catch all the way up to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it gets...
I didn't fall in love with it like everybody else has.
Well, the first season, right? And then it world builds on that, and then world builds on that, and then it just gets more and more expansive.
Yeah.
My problem is like it just seems to end really quickly. I'm like, I guess it's that episode's over.
And then what about Curb Your Enthusiasm, which also takes big long breaks? It does seem. I actually have not finished the last season.
Dudes, I read this article on what was it? What's the one Bill Simmons does? The Ringer.
The Ringer, yeah.
I read this article they did of the 100 greatest episodes of TV of all time.
Interesting.
This is one of those that we should maybe do a podcast on, or we should at least do
Episode
like a
200.
Patreon on or something.
I have a hard time picking. Like those best ofs are hard for me. Like going back and figuring the best episodes.
Well, they made a rule. You could only have one episode per show.
Okay.
But this was obviously a list written by a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of different tastes.
Yeah.
And some millennial or young generation Z or whatever it is, the next one. Just people that were like, oh, yeah, this episode of Comedy Bang Bang, or this episode of Steve-O show or some shit like that is going to be higher rated than like Friday Night Lights or some shit. I'm like, okay, this list makes no fucking sense with how people are ordering all of this bullshit.
Or for that matter, like the episode of WKRP in Cincinnati, this Thanksgiving episode, like,
oh, it has to be of this of since 2000.
Oh, since 2000.
Yeah, so they also have that rule too.
Okay, well then maybe 100 episodes. I don't know what, but this would be a fun thing.
American Idol was like in the top 30 though. It was fucking dumb.
I've always wanted to do a show where we talk about our like a sort of recommendation show that is like, here is our list of the 25 shows everybody should watch.
Yes.
like that kind of thing. Instead of going episode by episode, like here is we do a best of every year. Like if we did a best of that was like, if you were allowed to watch 25 shows, these are the 25 shows you could watch.
We should do that next year or next time we hit a lull in the season. Like you know how we
had that lull,
had those weeks where it was like there's just no TV coming out.
Or maybe we should do that for our 200th episode.
I think we should.
All right,
the 200 shows that you should watch.
200, the 200 shows you should watch. Oh my God, what have you just done to me, Grant?
From 2000,
you know how I am with making lists.
All right, Jonathan Huffnagel says, Dear TV dudes, I just returned from a rather cathartic trip to my hometown. After a few losses in recent years, this was the first time that the town felt full of life again. The people, the places, and the memories made me feel like I did when I lived there 20 years ago. Even with all the undeniable changes, there were very many small details frozen in time. This brought me much needed closure and helped me regain something I felt lost forever. That's great.
Yeah.
So it was quite ironic to watch Castle Rock while in my hotel room and see a man return to his hometown with so much tension, gravity, and unrest. What other TV shows need an episode where a character returns to their roots for better or worse?
So I was trying to think about this, and the fact is, I think most shows do this.
Yeah. I mean, Justified is the first one that comes to my mind where
I was thinking,
it's a return to home.
I was thinking the show NBC show Ed. That's what the entire show was him returning back to his old house. Like, there's a lot of shows about people going home again.
Oh, I love the final season of Breaking Bad, that first episode, and then in the last episode, where you see Walter go to the house, but it's like after the events of everything.
And it's all broken.
Yeah, and there's spray paint on the wall.
Yeah, I feel like this is a trope we see a lot, and I think it's a reason for it.
I'm trying to think of like certain comedies where they're like, oh, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go visit the folks and bring along my significant other. I mean, they do this a lot in movies.
BoJack Horseman had a great episode going back on his past.
God, that was painful.
Yeah.
The Office would always do it with Dwight, where it was always about Dwight's farm and
beet
farm. Yeah. Did we ever see much of Jim's life? I mean, I know we must have seen his parents because they had the movie, the wedding and everything. But
no,
we never saw like him or Pam's like backstory. I don't know if there was anything that interesting. Oh, they should have done an episode. Just an episode where we see Creed's past.
No,
they should do a spin-off of that.
This is the same thing, like with you and Gus and you and Creed.
You want to see it?
No, I don't need to see their backstory.
Yeah.
No, there's certain characters that are more interesting because you don't know.
You can't tell me that would have been funny though. With those guys writing it,
he's like a Cajun drug smuggler on like a fan boat.
Are you saying that Ozark is actually the Creed story?
Yes.
Jason Bateman is Creed.
Jason Bateman is Creed.
Headcanon accepted.
Jonathan Hadmichael says, "Hi dudes, I was in Italy for a few days on my grand tour of the world." Trademark, and found a great number of dubbed American live-action shows and movies airing on television compared to Sweden's subtitles or nothing mindset. It got me thinking about Netflix US defending its choice to set the English language dub as default for its foreign-based original series, and claiming the majority of American users don't care about the audio language. How do you dudes feel about dubs of foreign live-action shows? I used to be of the mindset that I preferred things dubbed because I didn't want to have to read and look up at the screen. But now I can't do it. I cannot watch someone's mouth move and that sound not be the sound that should be coming out of their mouth.
What's weird is you've been doing that this whole night, like because you're aware of ventriloquist.
What are you talking about?
It doesn't bug me as much with animation. I feel like definitely live action, it's really jarring, pulls you out of the experience.
Like Dragon Ball Z or something, though?
Yeah.
Whoa, I can't do it there either.
I can do it a little bit more with the animation.
I think I'm kind of agnostic on this, but the funny thing is, like, I will always rather watch something that's not dubbed. I would always watch subtitles.
Yeah, give me. I'll read and I'll just sacrifice some of the stunning visuals because I read slowly. I'm borderline illiterate, as you guys can tell as I read your questions.
This ain't the book club, dudes.
You're our Charlie Day.
What? Charlie Day?
Maverick.
But
Wild card.
I also think one thing that's going on is that my kid watches almost everything with subtitles on, and I know a lot of people do. That just because you catch more nuances. I mean, Kyle referenced it earlier. You catch more nuances.
When they
on.
spell people's names, it's like, oh, that's what they're saying.
So I don't that I find distracting. And there was a campaign to start putting subtitles in movies in the theaters because for deaf people to enjoy them more, which I get it, and I would be okay with it, but it would be I find them distracting. So I don't want them all the time, but I don't mind them when it's in a foreign language. And I love shows that have a ton of foreign language in them. Like, I was trying to think of there's definitely some shows that are like, there's a lot of Spanish. Well, Orange is the New Black comes right to mind. But Better Call Saul does too. There's whole segments that are in Spanish. The Americans, the old segments are in Russian. And hearing that language gives you a sense of the place in a way that having it dubbed just doesn't.
The language of Afrikaans, which is one of the many languages they speak in Cape Town. I was watching this sitcom that they were speaking Afrikaans, and it was like, looked like Martin, like kind of production value, and actually kind of the setups too. But what's funny is this language takes full English statements. So it's like a minute or two of something indecipherable that you can't do, and then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go have a big game today, and get a hot dog or something," and then they just switch back to like something you don't. But I always thought that was fun to watch those shows over there.
All right, last question comes to us from Michael Gassini, who says, "Hey dudes, simple question. Have any of you seen the atrocious train wreck of a show that is Netflix's Insatiable? I watched 10 minutes and can now comfortably call it the worst show of 2018 by a huge margin."
Now, there were some shows I hated this year, but I have heard nothing but bad about this.
Les chimed in
I
and
wish
said,
that Les was here because he could have gone a tear about this.
he goes, "Watching more now because my wife asked if I'd given it more than one episode. 4 eps in, and the show still has problems." But he said he'll be interviewing one of the actresses from the show, so look out for that soon.
That's going to be interesting. He's interviewing someone for a show that he hated.
Which means, he's probably not going to write to him. Never mind.
Did you watch any of it yet?
No, was this that show we were going to watch for this week?
Yeah, I killed it because the buzz was so bad, and it's like a teenage girl. It's basically pretty awful is what it sounds like.
It's body shaming that she's heavier set, and then she can't get attention, so she loses a bunch of weight, and now she's going to get revenge on people because she's looking good.
Oh my God.
That's like the only bit I kind of got from the trailer, and I was just like, I don't know, it just seems...
So it's like a Pretty Little Dieters?
That would have been a better title.
There you go.
But I think Netflix, they can all be winners. I mean, Netflix is producing 14,000 hours of content every week.
That's their game, though. It's throw it up against the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah,
and yet their track record is pretty high.
Right.
They're mostly winners.
Look forward to Insatiable season 2 and 3.
Well, if it can generate this much hate, at least that's buzz, I guess.
There should be programming for hate watching.
Oh man. You know what? The sad thing is it's still going to make our top 200 list.
Well, there's 200 shows. You got to fill a lot. You got to fill space.
Yeah, it's going to be higher than you think, folks.
It's 162.
All right, guys. Kyle, Randy, thank you, and thank you, listeners.
Thank you, Grant.
And you know what? This is a lot of fun. Let's do it again next week. Let's come back.
Yeah.
Oh, let's do it.
All right. Until then, folks, we're going to go ahead and say bye to you guys. And
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.